Yep, looks like I gotta take care of two of them now. Thankfully, thanks to having two of these different Xenos in my house, I get a pretty healthy stipend due to it. On top of that, I got a pretty good bonus for defending the planet. Actually, a lot of us did. Wish I could say the rest of the planet did so well as we did here, but, well, across the world, those blaster wielding, scaled faced turds brought all sorts of pain. In country where the availability of firearms is limited, they were forced to run or try an ambush. This only worked on occasion as the suits allowed the invaders to overpower most attackers. Yet the video of a man taking his antique mace to the Xeno's head made us all kinda laugh, especially that final look of, oh shit. The running gag, or nowadays it's an internet meme, would always show it right before the strike as the mace is coming down, with the verbiage, when you go medieval on a Xeno. The weapons the attackers used were only partially effective, since they clearly had no idea about our physiology. Those heated bolts of energy would cause third-degree burns to unprotected skin, but it took multiple hits to go deep enough to kill somebody. Well, that is unless you got struck in the heart, the head, or on the brainstem. Then would fry enough of your own critical components where, yeah, you're just not getting back up. One area in which the weapons were perfect for is the glom kicks. If struck at all, the glomtic would simply explode. Though not from this planet, it's still kind of disturbing to see them pop like a zit. You could even see their eyes. Just for a moment, a lot of these videos would catch it. That they knew what was about to happen as their bodies just filled up all of a sudden and pop. The fear in their faces was all too human to ignore. When I saw that, I could see why Cammy and her friend were so absolutely petrified when I found them. The new invaders, I guess you could call them, were relentless. Every time they saw a Glomtic, they would pursue it until they either killed it or someone or something intervened. I say something because they clearly didn't know anything about the flora and fauna on this mudball. For example, mangroves are very, very easy to traverse for a glomtic, but for anything else, you're going to get hung up really, really quick. Briar patches around the world were easy to grab onto one of those environmental suits that these reptilian schmucks were wearing and just wouldn't let go. They had to either cut it or burn it, and most of them didn't bring blades. The winter weather also played a role as the heat cannons seemed to dissipate when they hit any type of water. The denser the better, though. This is why most Glomtics headed for the nearest water source. Any place where it was raining was also slowing down those energy weapons, but it wasn't exactly stopping them because the density of the water wasn't enough. Being exploded in the rain was even more disturbing to watch. I saw one video of that and just had to turn it off. It wasn't just the vegetation or the terrain, but the critters as well. A few of these reptiles followed the glomtics into the deltas, only to find out that it's a really, really bad idea to give a hippo a sunburn with their supposed guns, or the multitude of things that bite, crawl near the rainforest. Let's not even talk about those that ended up near the outback. Ugh, it's, what's the word they use now? Oh yeah, the British guy called it ghastly. The most common occurrence was a glomtic rushing back to a house where the family had a dog. If the owner of the house didn't stop their scaly hides from breaking in, then the 80 pounds of fur missile did. Many, like me, still laugh at the video of the Rottweiler that hit the lizard with enough force to send it crashing back through the door, screaming like a little bitch. Or the Huskies, or were they Malamutes? Honestly, I couldn't tell the difference just by looking at them. Tossed several of these things around like the dogs were playing ping pong and the lizards were paddles. Though one could say the true karma was the videos of these invaders near water as they looked over and tried to find any type of fleeing glomtics. Alligators and crocodiles would jump out and drag them to the bottom. They didn't even know what happened as they were dragged underneath the waves. The lizards would begin screaming the entire time, and the death rolls just seemed to take a little bit longer than they would with a human. Of course, the suits that they were wearing did save a few as it kept them alive underwater, but not that many, as many of these gators were big enough where they could rip off a piece, and the invader would simply die of blood loss and shock. It did take a long time, though, before all the invaders were taken down. This may be a human planet, but it's not like we have a rifle behind every single blade of grass around the entire planet. During all that chaos, I had to figure out what the hell I was going to do with these two. I guess I can get back to business as usual, get us back on a schedule, bring us back to some sort of sense of morality. For the next few months, the remaining nations began to come together in a way no one had ever seen. Even though good old competition drove ingenuity and invention, it is the human desire to kill that seemed to bring everybody together. The first thing they did was to begin a full sector monitoring. At least now we can see them coming and get a little bit more warning besides, hey, grab your weapons, they're here. Then they began an extensive orbital defense network. The little one that we were able to put into place before these things came was like trying to stop a tiger tank with a wooden fence. Not very effective, I'd say. On top of that, there was the most expansive military training systems ever. All of us old men were asked to train the next generation. I personally was busy, but everybody jumped in. Every single person. If they weren't working, they were training. And because of this, all sports suddenly vanished. Well, I shouldn't say it that way. They suddenly changed to military based operations, always trying to outdo each other with tactics. Everything from football to football, depending on which side of a body of water you were on, whatever sport was pretty much disappeared overnight, and mainly because all government money had dried up and not paying $1 million for players to go play a kids game. The next area was to increase the military hardware, in particular exosuits and space-based ships. Because of this, everybody knew what was going to be on the horizon. But they also knew for this to happen, it's going to take time and a long buildup. Everybody knew it took at least 2 years for the U.S. government to get its head out of its butt and be ready for World War II. And this is going to be a lot bigger. As they work, I continue to watch over the two Galactics in my care. Cammy and her new friend Scarlet seem to never ever want to leave my side. They keep insisting that I let them clean my body. This whole thing is annoying. I know they want to help me out and everything, but seriously, ladies, when I'm in the latrine, can you just give me 5 minutes? Aside from that, I didn't mind too much, except Scarlet, well, she decided to help clean when we were watching TV, and she slithered down past my belt. She looked completely confused as I jumped up and I tried to not freak out on her. Thankfully, Cammy took me aside because we had had this conversation. I only have to guess what they discussed is, well, that sort of thing didn't happen again, and I was just grateful for that. I still let them pull some of the toxins out of my body, which made me feel a whole lot better, but I digress. Life eventually seemed to move more onto routine. Once I got us on a schedule, I found that I had some extra free time, and in my free time, I decided to look at the Xeno suit and take it apart, figure out how it works. To no one's surprise, there were unbelievable amount of tutorials all over the net about those, how to take them apart, how to repair them, how to use them, how to wear them. and even the weapons. A few engineers had even figured out how to micronize them, make them smaller, small enough that they look like some sort of laser pistol from some sort of 1980s sci fi movie. A little bulky, but effective, and I'm just glad they didn't have that stupid little radar dish on the front. I learned a lot about the tech at that time. Honestly, more than I should. Wait a minute, this is weird. I can think so clearly now. I don't know. Was this a side effect from you know what? Never mind. Probably a good idea not to think about thinking too much. Though I started to hear speculation about something. Those that used to be called conspiracy theorists have been proven right enough times to make everyone take notice, and they brought some very interesting set of points to everybody. Looking over the attacking reptiles, their equipment, and something is clear, yet something else is kind of a bit off. The suits were able to protect the lizards from the elements, but not much else. Bullets went clean through along them, along with blades, and anything else solid would damage the chute for sure. Along with the suits, the weapons only seemed to be fully effective against the Glontics. Even grazing wounds were almost always lethal to the Glomtic bodies. Only a few of them survived even the most basic hit, and those that did are now missing parts. One can only hope that a Glomtic can regenerate over time, because nobody deserves that. The part, however, that makes everybody take notice is, uh, well, in the attack, it was the reptilians themselves. The similarities are, well, they're too similar to deny. The reptiles were thin, very thin, and bipedal, round, and, just like the Glomtics when we first seen them. The reptiles have no ears, but just some seeming auditory holes, just like the Glomtics did. The reptiles seem to have some sort of vestigial nose bump, if you want to call it, nasal, whatever. But yeah, we look at the way the Glomtics were. They thought they had a nose, but it was just a bump. The reptiles had 4 digits on their hands, just like the Glomtics. The reptiles' feet had 3 toes, 2 in the front, 1 in the back, just like the Glomtics. At least that's what the Glomtics had when they showed up. Over the past year, the Glomtics seem to get more and more human looking. Their bodies have gained more definition, more girth, where you would expect a human to, even to the point of exaggerating certain affinities. Say, well, I'll just leave it at that. That they look good, but one can't help but question why the change. As I sit here, waiting for the girls to wake up from their midday slumber, I'm looking through my phone at the photos I took after the battle. I noticed that the reptilians had horns, kind of like demons, on their heads. They weren't very long horns, from what I could see, only about maybe 2 or 3 inches long. But I looked over at the girls and realized that the antennae were in the same location. The difference being that the horns that the reptiles have go up and the antennae droop. Sliding through the photos, I come across one photo taken of me and Cammy when we first met. Examining it, I noticed that her antennae are shorter than they were before when we first met. And did she get taller? I know she gained more girth, but... Oh, okay. What? What? Oh, my head hurts. What the hell has my species gotten pulled into?